today we're talking about why she's messing with her ears.
I had a Showtime synergy moment. Like I wanted to be like Jim in the holograms.
Wow.
Yes.
We're talking about Sassafrass, Cypress, and Indigo by Ntozake Shange.
We are.
We are in the lovely establishment called The Secret Word in Houston. The address is 2016 Dowling. Nefertari Queen Raven was gracious enough to allow us to use her venue to record. Very benevolent. To use her venue that typically features spoken word poetry, just an array of literary things and community developments. Yeah, special events, community development. Come down, have a glass of wine, have tea, have awesome coffee. And a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm going to talk about more later because it just slipped my mind. Yeah. You get to see the real
It's a cool place with the orange walls.
Come, hurry, quickly.
There it is.
All right, so we were talking about Indigo, the youngest sister in this trio of three sisters in Sassafrass, Cypress, and Indigo. And one of the things about Indigo is that I related to, and we kind of were chewing it up about this a second ago, was how she built her own world, being the youngest sibling out of three. She didn't really, and she was separated in age a lot from her next oldest sister. So she kind of built her own world using her dolls and the things that she just felt about herself. One of the quotes that I did want to read was, there wasn't enough for Indigo in the world she'd been born to, so she made up what she needed and what she thought black people needed. She felt they needed access to the moon, the power to heal, and daily visits with the spirits. So she created this almost Indigo universe, if you will. And we kind of have a running joke about our world and the people we allow in it and that kind of thing. But she created this even through her dolls. Mm-hmm. She played with dolls past the age that a lot of people think is appropriate. Her mother really did not enjoy.
She really wanted her to. I think she saw the danger of Indigo continuing to live in this other world.
In this isolated area.
Because she was so complete.
Right.
In that world that I think her mother feared that if she did not make the move to pull her back and pull her into reality, especially coming into the preteen years,
True.
She just would have lived in the other world. That's what would have been where she was, and she would have been cool with it. But you can't really
mature.
You can't mature. You can't really operate.
Right.
Like no matter how active my imaginative life is, and it's, oh my God, it's awesome in there. I can't stay there. I can't work there. I can't.
Bills have to be paid in the real
world.
Like
I need lights on, so when I come out of that world, I can cut on the computer and talk to people via Facebook. So those are very important things. So we have to come back from that space,
from that isolation,
right?
In that world that we create, because usually, I mean, most sane people don't create a world that is rife with chaos. So it's kind of insulated. Right. It's very insulated, not even kind of. It's completely insulated, and you can set yourself up for unrealistic expectations, and that was what I feel like her mother wanted to prevent. I don't want her to live so in this world, in this
of her own creation that she never really grows.
Exactly.
And then you go from, I mean, there was enough magic to be seen, and the awesome part of having your mind open to the magic of the world is you see it finds you because you're open to it. You want to see it. So there were all kinds of cool things that Indigo got to see, like the date in the middle of the street, and with the Geechee captains came and parked their bikes, and what was his name? Old Joe or old somebody? I can't remember his name.
The man who taught her to fiddle.
The man who gave her the fiddle out of his. He came and had his date in the middle of the street, and it was awesome. I mean, that's magical. That's magical.
And for the record, that is one of the most romantic scenes in a book.
Yeah.
There is this character, and his name was, I'm going to tell you his name as soon as I think of it or as soon as I find it. But he was kind of courting this lady who had her own possessions. She had her own home. She had her own things. And the guy seemed kind of transient and indigent.
He was like a moving Fred Sanford.
Right.
He was Fred Sanford, except instead of staying in the house with the junkyard, he had his junkyard on the back of his truck, and he went wherever he went.
Left and right and to and fro with
it.
But the scene that I'm talking about, the scene where he goes a courting, and he he sets up this elaborate dinner, and they
And,
have
and they dance in the middle of the street.
in the middle of the street by moonlight. Just, my sappy 5 second sappy romantic side was like, oh, and then I got all hard and tough again because I'm a G.
So like he introduces her to the fiddle,
right,
and the fiddle becomes like her pass from this life inside this internal life
and
to the external life.
Exactly. She gives the fiddle a voice.
The fiddle becomes her voice.
Good point.
And it becomes her language that she begins to communicate with the rest of the world in.
Right.
And it starts off as violent and undisciplined.
Right.
And then it becomes through her spirit, because she communes with this instrument and her spirit speaks through it. It becomes this instrument of healing and beauty and
incorporation,
and even an instrument of fury, because she uses it to subdue.
True.
So we see her go from the dolls when she was nearly physically attacked. Once she had come into her maturity,
right.
She was nearly physically attacked, and that gave her the realization that, okay, it's time for me to put my dolls away.
Right.
And that was her.
Putting that dolls away, she picked up the fiddle. And gave herself a voice, and one that was more powerful because it reached out, as opposed to having that internal voice with the dolls and the internal life with the dolls. It reached out and started to move things around. I think that is a sure sign of maturity.
That one of the things that struck me when it comes down to her and this fiddle, once she had became a part of the gang,
the Geechee
Capitans, Junior Geechee Capitans, and her best friends became two boys, and she stopped communing with the dolls. She was communing with her fiddle. One night,
she began working in a bar.
She began working in the speakeasy down underground, where she was getting into some things. She began playing there, and the Geechee Capitans, the adult Geechee Capitans' girlfriend, Mabel, was so disturbed in her spirit that she was receiving all this attention, and to her, things were discordant. They weren't. It wasn't what she was used to.
Right.
And the thing about it is, and I think that scene always struck me, because when you are a person who lives according to your spirit, even though you have peace within your spirit about what you're doing, people who are not at peace, you become a peaceful warrior to them. You become a person who's at war with their idea of what normal is, because you challenge their idea of normal by living your life
the way that you choose to.
Extraordinarily.
Right.
So I think that kind of rubbed Mabel wrong.
It made her feel uncomfortable, because Mabel then started to feel like a fraud herself.
Right.
She was displeased with her life, and you'll run into people like that.
And of course, when a person is displeased with their life and they feel like you're the one who came along and
showed them their displeasure.
Right. So of course you're wrong.
Right.
I'm gonna get you, and that's what happened between Mabel and Indigo. This is page 46. I'm not sure what chapter this is, but Pretty Man, which was the adult Geechee Capitan's the leader.
Yeah.
Pretty Man's girl Mabel was like, you know what, this is enough is enough. I think I need things to go back to the way they were when I was used to it. I'm not used to this, and I don't appreciate you changing things. And they had an actual fight, and that was another kind of eye-opening event for Indigo, because this conversation with her mom, I want to really get to the conversation with her mom when she got home, and she instead of being angry with Mabel and being bitter, she saw how unhappy Mabel was with herself and how trapped she felt in her own life, and she empathized with her, and she felt pain for her, and she told her mom, Hilda Ephania, I don't know how to say that. That's the mom's name. She says, "Mama, it's hard, isn't it?" And then she responds, "What's hard, Indigo?" "Being a grown colored woman is hard, ain't it? Just like you told me. Just because I have to grow up, my dolls don't have to. I can save them, Mama. Let's take them to the attic, you and me. And it's like Indigo began to see the world as an adult,
Yes.
and what she saw scared her and caused her pain. And this, she wanted to save her piece of the world
Right.
from the world, and she
And
took
her innocence.
her.
Because
That was
that's what the dolls
that's what the
represented.
dolls represented.
At the end of the day, even with it being in her interior world, they represented her innocence. She didn't have to feel anybody's pain. And one of the things about Indigo was she was an empath. She was a person who could see and take on to a certain extent the pain of another person. Unfortunately, she didn't know what to do with it early on. But as you grow in your gifts, you begin to know how to address them and how to, like you said, to be a peaceful warrior about them. One of the lines in the book says she was particularly herself. That's a good. That's an interesting way to think about how the world views you as opposed to how you view your internal life.
So we're gonna stop at that point.
Right.
And we're going to end part 2. We thank you again for joining us. This is the LiteraTea. We're talking about Sassafrass, Cypress, Indigo by Ntozake, Shange. And we hope to see you in just a few minutes. Thank you very much for joining us.
See you in a second.